joining in once again and listening to another episode of the Edible Valley podcast. I'm chef and host Jonathan Fraser.
And I'm your co-host Darren Howlett. Join us again as we go on another culinary adventure of the Comox Valley and beyond.
Today, the Edible Valley podcast have come to meet Joe Smith and Helen Nixon of Glen Alwin Farm in Grantham, just between Merville and Courtenay. The farm is one of the oldest in the Comox Valley, being cleared in 1884 from Bushland by William Chandler Smith, who was the grandfather of Joe Smith's late husband Tom. But Joe's story starts 5,000 miles away in the idyllic Devon town of Salcombe in England, where she spent much of her childhood. But eventually her family decided to move to the Comox Valley, where she would eventually meet and fall in love with local boy Tom Smith. They were to get married and have 4 beautiful daughters, Anne, Doreeen, Barb and Helen. Keen to ensure they learned the skills of farming, Tom and Joe instilled a strong farming work ethic to all of their children, and they had their work cut out for them as it took a total of 10 years to clear 116 acres of land, and they're still in fact pulling up roots to this day. Today, the farm is thriving. Worked on daily by Joe, her daughter Helen and granddaughter Claire Nixon, they now sell all over the island, on the farm and also the ever-busy Comox Valley Farmers Market. This really is a story that covers 3 centuries in this valley. It gives us great pleasure at the Edible Valley podcast to welcome Joe Smith and Helen Nixon.
All right, well, welcome back to another episode of the Edible Valley podcast. I'm Chef Jonathan Fraser.
And I'm Darren Howlett. I'm your co-host. And today we're at Glen Alwin Farms.
We just did a lovely little tour of the farm.
There's a lot for us to go into as we go through this today. It's beautiful, and I'm really happy that we got to take a little tour. It's different than when we normally do these. Sometimes we take a little walk through after, but there's so much to talk about.
Well, let's introduce our guests here so we can learn a little bit more about the farm and what's going on here, and maybe a little bit of the history. That was the history part of it.
Yeah. So sitting with us today, we have Helen and Claire Nixon, and we have Grandma Joe. And the 3 of you, pretty much are the entirety of Glen Alwin Farms?
It's a family-run operation, and there's always lots of us around. But on a day-to-day basis, yes, it's the 3 of us that are strolling around feeding everything.
There's a lot going on here. Where can we start?
Well, I was just thinking, I was laughing when we were doing the little tour and you were saying, with all your free time, you started this and this and this. And I was just impressed with what you have going on here. So I think the first thing we started off today with is the fields here, just looking out at the property. And how big is the farm?
The farm's about 200 acres. We tell people it's 200 acres because we're not entirely sure. The highway runs through the middle of the farm, and also Portuguese Creek runs through the middle of the farm. So we're missing a bit here and there, and depends what highways is snagged over the years as well.
Right.
So, and you guys are producing for all your animals here, not all your animals, but for the cows and... What other animals?
We have cattle, beef cattle, a couple of dairy cows, basically to supplement the lambs if the ewes aren't producing enough milk. When the lambs are weaned off, we'll give the extra milk to the pigs.
Right.
So, but as far as producing feed for the livestock, we produce a bit of grain, not all the grain that the sheep eat over the winter. Some of it we have to buy in. But all the hay the sheep eat, we produce, and all the silage that the cows eat, we produce here on the farm.
Wow.
We also sell a little bit of hay if there's extra hay around to sell. Some years we have better years than others. Everybody knows that the valley can sometimes be feast or famine as far as the weather goes.
And so it seems like it was set up originally to be a cattle farm. Like that was the primary focus at the beginning, or was it set up as a hay farm?
Initially, when the farm started, when Mom and Dad got married, and this is probably better for Mom to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We started out as a dairy farm. So I'll let Mom tell you the story from here.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Tell a bit of the history.
Actually, can I go back a bit further?
Please do.
It was started in 1884 in October, and it original part of the farm, which we still have 40 acres of that, ran from Portuguese Creek, or just the side of it, right up to Headquarters Road.
Wow.
William Chandler Smith and his wife, Anne, came out from Ontario with 10 children. And they preempted this piece of land, which was all bush, and they had never seen it. So how they were given this most beautiful spot with a view we have, we kind of lucked out. But anyway, over the years, as the kids, the original family died off, the land was sold in blocks because it was left to 10 children. And Tom, my husband, his dad got the 40 acres at the bottom that comes across the creek to the highway side of the creek.
Right.
And then in the early 1900s, probably about 1904, we figure, he bought the adjoining farm, which is the piece we have the house on now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But when they first came here and cleared the land, they used to take all their produce, milk, butter, eggs, crops and stuff, all up to the mines at Cumberland, and they delivered it with oxen.
Wow.
And one of the original oxen yokes is up in the Cumberland Museum right now.
Oh, wow.
And that's from the family farm, eh?
Yeah. So Tom and I got married in 1961.
And at that time, it was just a dairy farm, or was it still producing?
It was just mainly
a mixed farm.
Farm, yeah. Tom's dad was 60 when he had Tom, so
wow.
Yeah.
They raised, at the time, his father, my father's father, so my grandfather, raised turkeys.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Eggs. He would sell eggs all over the country.
Yeah.
Wow.
Turkey eggs and for hatching. For other people to hatch. Lots of people hatched turkeys at the time.
Is there a market for turkey eggs?
Yeah. Apparently there's a really big market.
There were 3 big turkey farms here, maybe 4, when in the early 60s.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, how would you categorize your farm now? You have, I mean, from what we've seen in the tour that you took us on, we saw that there was cattle. You had some pigs, a few.
We saw a pile of pigs.
Yeah, we did.
A pile of pigs.
We saw various stages of chickens, and we saw sheep. And are there any other? And you said something to the effect of turkeys.
Turkeys.
Yeah.
And a greenhouse with a garden.
Yes.
For in our spare time.
And some bees going as a hobby, I heard.
Oh, that's right. The bees, the little apiary.
Yeah.
And does that cover everything that you're growing right now or raising?
Pretty much, other than, like I said, we do try to sell a bit of hay.
Right.
What we're trying to do is kind of cover everything. If somebody is looking for something, we want to say, okay, yeah, we can have that for you. We have that for you, or we can grow that for you. We're happy to try to grow it for you, but we need to know that we don't want to jump into anything.
Yeah.
With both feet and put everything into one basket and not know what's going to sell at the end of the day. Better to try to eat what's not going to sell yourself than to throw it out, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, just in that alone, just as you said, to the one, as we were walking through that one path to the left, or to the right, rather, there was the squash area, which was where you originally were growing some vegetables. And then you're like, well, and then we built a greenhouse to try that out. And it's full. Completely full, and then beyond the greenhouse there's a couple of acres there of more vegetables. Like, you've got ample land here. I can absolutely see why you're saying you can try things out. You've got the space to try things out. It's just to know that it's going to be used.
That's right. And when it comes to vegetables are great. Like I said, the weeds get ahead of us. Obviously, we take care of what needs to be taken care of first.
Right.
And then, all the extra stuff we plan on the side is not so important. So we know that the vegetables aren't going to starve, and in the end, if it ends up we can't use them, they just get rototilled back into the ground again. It's not a lot lost in a package of seeds for us. time-wise. As long as we get everything we need to get done, then maybe we'll have time to get what we want to get done.
Right. And so speaking to that, what do you produce any products from the animals that you raise, or do you sell them to markets? Do you sell them to grocery stores?
Mum's been selling at the farmers market for probably the last...
Since 2006.
Wow, that's the Courtenay.
Long time, the farmers market in Courtenay.
Perfect.
And she has lots of people who come there.
Yeah.
We also have been selling off the farm for a number of years. Like, we've always sold off the farm, but a couple of years ago we kind of got proactive and made a sign for the bottom of the driveway so people knew where we are. So now we'll have people pull up, or they'll phone up on the phone, put an order together. Well, since this COVID thing broke out, they'll put an order together, and we've been doing a bit of delivery and stuff like that. Restaurants have bought off us for a number of years, but because we don't have a consistent supply, like we were discussing earlier, we don't have 300 lamb shanks for one restaurant.
Right.
It's really difficult. So it's like you guys were saying, a fresh sheet kind of idea works best for us.
As featured items.
Yeah, and if any restaurant wants a particular thing grown or raised for them, we're happy to try it out. And if we can actually make a bit of money off it and keep everybody happy, then we're totally willing to try it.
Yeah, that just takes, on the restaurant's part, takes a little foresight. They just need to hunker down and do a little planning and say, hey, 6 months, 8 months from now, this would be great if we had this.
Yeah,
and then they can come to you.
Exactly. Like, we were trying to convince somebody on ducks. Ducks is lots of people like duck. It's fairly popular in restaurants, and they use the whole duck. So duck would be great. The problem with us is the cost factor of raising ducks is it's relatively cheap. The duck isn't that expensive, and they forage for a lot of their own food, so they can be out on pasture quite well. You still have to feed them their grain naturally. It's the processing of these things that costs a lot of money, and it kind of inhibits somebody in a restaurant from wanting to get it when it costs you, like a chicken is one thing. It's like $5 to get it processed, but a duck, I think, is up around $8 or $10 to get it processed.
Wow, which
is huge amounts of money to be putting out. It's one thing to put out the money for the duck and the food, but then you're processing it, which is another $10, like totally out of your pocket.
Right.
And then you have the freezer space to store it till somebody wants to buy it.
Well,
So
I think that's what people don't understand with small producers.
Exactly.
Is that expense. And you guys are lucky because you're not far from...
You're just down the road from them.
From Gunther Brothers.
We are so lucky to have Gunther Brothers so close. At just the whole stress on moving animals.
Right.
And the fact is, Claire's pretty good at convincing them down there if there's something that somebody asks for that we need to get in quickly. She kind of has a little bit of an in. It's helpful.
Claire, who's been relatively silent throughout the interview.
Yeah, I know.
Sort of hiding in the back there.
Exactly. She's cooking breakfast.
That's right. We did a breakfast round and everyone's like, coffee, tea. Nothing substantial. So like the whole fact of, getting an animal to, say slaughterhouse, but to get processed is a traumatic thing for a lot of animals. So
it is traumatic for a lot of animals, and we like to tell everybody the animals are happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're happy, and we try to make sure everything gets outside. Right? Yeah, it's not like it's going to be stuck inside or in a little pen for its entire life. We like to get it outside. Even in the winter, the cows go outside. They're not trapped on the concrete. They might not have a lot to eat out there. Nobody's going to have a lot to eat out there in the winter. We feed them in the barn. They can come and go as they please. If they want to go outside, they can go outside. If they want to sleep in the rain, they want to sleep under the stars, they can sleep under the stars. Yeah. Everybody here is happy, and they got one bad day.
Right.
And it's a quick trip.
Yeah.
And they
sorry. Go ahead.
They don't go down by themselves. They go in groups.
Right.
We never take anything to the slaughterhouse without taking a buddy
with them. So. Yeah.
No, it's pretty evident that they were happy. I mean, when you showed us the pigsty, and the pigs were literally happy as pigs. Like, they were all like buddying up together, and then the sheep were all happily together, the cows, everything seems happier. The only thing that wasn't super happy was the chickens, and that's just because they were super curious. They weren't like rolling around and laughing. They were like, What's going on? Who are you guys? Why are you interrupting me?
I was going to say, and Will, when he stepped in.
Got a quick reaction.
Think of what we should talk about what you feed the cows here, because I thought that was a very interesting.
Yeah, because we take 2 crops off a year. Mm-hmm. Usually somewhere around the end of May, we start cutting our first crop off. The grass starts to seed out at that point. And when the grass starts to seed out, it doesn't grow anymore. Mm-hmm. So it'll just be stagnant there. Right. So we start cutting about the end of May. Our fields aren't under-drained, so we have to wait till it's dry enough to get on there with a tractor, or you're just in a giant mud hole getting stuck the whole time. So we take everything off we've got on the other side of the highway, which is probably about 150 acres worth of cropping. We take everything off on silage. Between the 3 of us, Claire drives a dump truck back and forth. I usually mow and chop, and then Claire will haul it up onto this side of the highway with the dump truck, dump it for Mum, who takes a tractor and pushes it up into a bunker silo and packs all day.
Wow.
So with her headphones on. Don't walk behind her when she's on the tractor. Stand to the side and flag her, or you get an earful. So all the first cut goes in that way. It gets chopped into little bits and pressed down and fermented and made into the silage, and the cows eat that all winter. It's considered grass because it is grass. So all our cattle are grass fed. They don't get any grain at all.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
No, except for my dairy cow, who won't stand still. And then once the silage is in, cows, usually when we're cutting silage midway, the cows go down onto pasture all summer on the other side of the highway. And then we refertilize again. Nothing grows very well in this valley without having a bit of fertilizer. Otherwise, the nutrients are rained out.
Right. Yeah, it's just a little wet in this area sometimes.
Yeah, so. Really wet. And if you don't cut it and fertilize it, it just turns back into bush really quickly.
Wow.
So we refertilize again and then wait till about this time and we start cutting hay. And then everything's cut again, depending on the weather. You need good 4 days of sunshine to get a field of hay in.
Wow.
If you don't get it dry enough, you worry all winter it's going to burn your barn down because it'll spontaneously combust if there's too much moisture in it.
Oh, wow.
And you lose a barn really quickly that way, and anything that might be trapped inside.
Right. Not a good thing.
Not a good thing. So in a good year, we can sell a bit of hay.
Right.
And we usually keep about 2,000 bales to keep the sheep through the winter.
Okay.
Wow.
And then anything above and beyond that, we hopefully can sell. We keep a little bit left just to usually trash or something that's gone a little bit off to cover the silage plastic with. So we can weight the plastic with that. And then when it falls off the top of the silage, the cows will pick through it and then everything just gets scraped into the manure pit.
Right.
How long does it take to do the fields?
First cut for silage usually takes about 2 weeks. Again, dependent on the weather, because you can't cut it when it's raining. You can cut it when it's been sprinkled on. But about 2 weeks to get it all in.
It's a big field too when you look at it.
Yeah. And then again, the highway runs through the middle of the farm, so Claire's standing on the brake of the truck a lot of time waiting for the traffic to clear so you can get across the highway both ways.
And I just for conversation's sake, I hope it's okay to bring up the fact that obviously there's an issue with trying to get the cattle across the highway, and you guys have circumvented that by you have an actual a cattle tunnel that goes right under the highway from one side of your property to the other.
I'd like to hear the story of how that came to be.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Grandma will tell you that because she's the one that made that come to be.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's always been a deep depression in the field there.
Oh, yeah.
On the top side of the highway, and it used to fill up to just about the height of the highway, which I should imagine is probably about 14 feet from the bottom of the hill up to the top of the highway now.
Okay.
Anyway, the government came along and dug down, put a culvert in. It was about 6 inches, just a tiny culvert, 6 inches below the top of the road. My husband went down and he said, if you dig the hole, I'll buy a big culvert so the cows can walk through. But no, they wouldn't go for that. But within 6 months, I'd got just a little tiny pamphlet that got sent to me from the cattlemen up in Kamloops. And it said if you owned the land or rented the land on both sides of the highway and crossed your cattle more than 4 times a year, you could get a free culvert. So I bypassed all the locals and everything else and sent it to the government.
Yeah.
And they came and put the culvert in.
Oh, that's amazing.
Freebie. It's 100 feet long now since they widened the highway.
What year was that they put that in?
I'm thinking it was about early 70s. I've forgotten what date it was.
And at that time, this was also the only, this was the highway.
That was the main
only way
highway,
to get north.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's on a corner. And at one time, they had put the speed limit up. Instead of just 50 miles an hour, it was then, they'd put it up to 60. You'd come through the school zone and then you'd hit 60 again around the corner here.
Right. And it's a blind corner.
It's a blind corner.
Wow.
And when we first started milking our dairy cows, we used to put them on a rope and take each one down.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's quite the solution there to have that little cattle tunnel. I think that's hilarious. And I think it's amazing. And again, when you were showing us the cattle on the other side, they looked literally like they were happy and almost galloping. I don't know. The one looked like it was pretty happy about it. Liked being there.
So how, before the culvert, how did you get across the highway?
We used to just take the rope and take them across, and then we got a few more cows. So my husband would go down and stand on the road with a big sign and try to stop the traffic, and I'd chase them down. But
would you take them over one by one?
No,
then
we had
just
flags after a while.
Yeah, we had to flag them.
We'd stop traffic both ways across the cows. And they'd have to go across after milking in the morning and then come back to get milked and then go back again. So it was a lot of time stopping traffic on the highway. But this was, again, in the 70s.
Yeah.
But
a little less traffic.
You know what drivers are like now, but some of those drivers were still here in the 70s. The ones that drive past deer on the side of the road and think, well, they're not going to jump out. It's a deer. Why would it jump out in front of a car?
We were very fortunate. We didn't have anybody hit a cow.
Oh, that's amazing.
But we had a cow hit the side of a car.
Wow.
Yeah. And they got one border collie of ours, which was an expensive dog, but
yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate.
But that highway has been a worry all the time.
Yeah, I think that's such a great solution, though.
I did have a question about when did you get out of the dairy farming end of things?
We got out of dairy farming, I think it was 1989.
Okay.
They were threatening to, they were doing the whole free trade thing, and they were threatening to devaluize quota.
Okay.
In quota, I don't know if you guys are aware, the quota is the right to ship milk, and it's expensive. You get your money back when you sell out.
Interesting.
But if they decide that they're going to devaluize quota, like in the States, they have no quota system as far as cows producing milk goes. Here, it's a marketing board.
Right.
So you're guaranteed a price for milk. Right. Down there, you're not. So you're flying by the seat of your pants down there. And they were threatening to do it here. And we thought, you know what, we better get the money out of the quota while we can. My dad was starting to have health issues as well.
Okay.
So we thought, we'll get the money out now, and if everything stabilizes, maybe we'll get back into milking cows again.
Right.
And it just never stabilized.
It did stabilize, and actually the price of quota went way up.
Okay.
And the free trade went through, but they didn't devaluize quota on this side. But every few years they keep talking about it again, right?
Really?
You hear it in the government, and more milk is coming across from the other side. So
I've started to see that actually.
I don't know even now I'd be happy to be a dairy farmer. I would feel comfortable having that amount of money invested.
So your one dairy cow, that's for personal use?
That's for personal use, and that feeds our house.
Yeah.
And Mom's house. It feeds us on the farm, and then it also feeds lambs too.
Oh yeah.
And the pigs enjoy it quite a lot. So lots of times we have milk-fed pork.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Sometimes Claire likes to wash them in milk too.
Claire, anything to add?
Actually, there was one more product that you've been doing with the sheep. at the market with a little bit of wool there.
So, I think something more to the point too is that if you are going to see Grandma Jo at the market, she's not just going to have all the meats and the beef, the chicken, what have you, in freezer ready for you. She's also got a couple other things.
Yeah. Well, since the early 80s, we've actually been taking our wool back over to Alberta and having it processed at Carstairs.
Oh, yeah.
And selling it. The first year we didn't have a lot, and I put it all through a knitting machine, sold it as sweaters. But as the amount of sheep grew, we're just selling it for other people to knit up now, and needle felt and wet felt and anything else they want to do, quilt with it.
Yes. And so you provide it in various states.
Yeah, we have it in 3-ply and low-pea for knitting with, and then we have the rovings, which you can spin and felt with. And
you've dyed them yourselves?
I dye some of it myself. Yes, any that's dyed is dyed myself, yeah. And
then do you sell any of the... I know you showed us some of the things that have been made with it. You showed us that darling little turtle and a toque or two, but do you sell those as well? Or are those just for personal use? I
can't sell crafts at the market.
Oh.
We could sell the wool at the market because we have produced it from our own sheep.
Right.
But
you can sell your toques and stuff.
Yeah,
at the market,
I sell
though.
toques. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So everybody, look out for Grandma Jo
at the market.
Yeah, get your toque
in a white trailer.
In the white trailer. Yeah. Okay. The one thing we didn't talk about that I just realized is how many animals you have on the property. I know that's a bit of a loaded question, but like roughly how many cows are there?
I like to think we have about 80 cows at varying stages of growth.
Right.
We try to keep about 30 mother cows, and then we have naturally the herd sire. We'll have basically 2 years worth of calves out there, some that are 3 months old, and then some that are another, 12 to 14 months old. So everything is in different stages of growing.
Right.
That cycle of...
It's the cycle. Sometimes I look out there and go, wow, that's a lot of cows. And then we try to keep about 80 ewes.
Oh, yeah.
Mother ewes, but then they probably, our average was 2.5 this year. 2.5 per ewe. So we have that. So 80 times 2, 100.
Wow.
We have lots of sheep out there.
Lots of sheep.
Yeah.
I only saw 5 pigs, but you said there were 10?
10 pigs. We just didn't call the big ones. I walked all the way over there and showed you the culvert, but I didn't show you the pigs over there. So those pigs are ready to go at the end of the month.
Oh, yeah.
And then these 5 pigs will be moving over into the big pig pen, and they can run up and down.
And then the chickens, you have them allotted into different...
Yeah, and then we try to run about 400 meat birds over the summer, but in stages of 100 at a time.
Oh, yeah.
So we've already sent the first 100. They're gone up to the processor. Mm-hmm. And then, so everybody's in the freezer there. The next batch will be going in about 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next 100 have already started. They're about 2 weeks old now. And then we have another 100 ordered.
Wow.
Is that 400 or 500? Yeah. Anyway, and then we have about 40 turkeys started. So they'll be ready for the Thanksgiving market. Anything that isn't sold, they'll be taken up to the processor and then frozen and then sold for Thanksgiving. Anything that doesn't sell for Thanksgiving, will be saved till Christmas, and they'll just go for the Christmas market.
And then how many bees? No.
I have 2 hives of bees. I haven't counted them all lately.
Wow.
Then I'm not sure. Oh, we have laybirds as well, which I didn't show you guys. We have about 80 laybirds.
Wow.
So.
And then you've got 2 dogs.
Oh no, we have 4 dogs.
4.
Yeah, the other 2 are locked away because it makes it sound like we live in a kennel otherwise. So there's always lots of animals up here.
It's fantastic.
We love
There's
animals.
Always lots of
so
things
we just kind of collect. Sometimes we go, oh my God, what have we done?
Yeah. All right.
And then we get some more.
I guess we got to get into some contact information and the best places to get the product from. Whether you want grass-fed beef.
Well, we're at every Saturday market at the Comox Valley Farmers Market on Headquarters Road in the summer.
Right.
And in the winter, we're at the Native Sons in Courtenay.
Right.
Right.
And you'll find us in a white trailer.
The white trailer.
Alternately, you can just get Grandma online at glenalwin.ca.
Great.
Shaw.ca.
Glen Alwin at shaw.ca, sorry.
Sure.
Or you can phone her at 250-338-3525 and place an order.
Perfect.
She's always got her cell phone on her.
Yeah, good. And any budding chefs or existing chefs or kitchens out there, if they want to establish something with you, they can get you the same way?
Yeah, she can get us on the phone, or they just pop right up to the farm anytime.
Great.
There's usually somebody around up here.
How does it feel? How do you feel about people coming by the farm to check it out?
There's always somebody here. We're always happy to help people. Sometimes it makes it a little bit stressful if it's in the middle of silage.
Right.
Or something like that. But for the most part, there's always somebody up here. And if you can't see anybody, you just sit in your car and beep your horn. Somebody will show up.
And yeah, if you are looking for where you're actually situated, there's a sign there, Glen Alwin Farms, just a few minutes north of Gunther Brothers. If you were just going, no.
Yeah, but on the highway, it's just past the Gunther Brothers meat sign on the right-hand side. And a good landmark is there's a tractor crossing sign just before our driveway.
Right.
So if you see the tractor crossing, you know.
I think we're the only tractor crossing sign, between here and Campbell River. So
nice.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much for your hospitality. This was such a great morning, getting to see everything that you do, and it's very eye-opening for me. I had a lot of fun.
I'm very excited. Thank you so
Anytime.
much for talking with us.
We love showing people around.
Perfect.
Thanks so much.
It was nice meeting you guys.
And once again, thank you for supporting us, and more importantly, supporting the people that make up your food community. We're always looking for new stories to share and people to talk with. So don't forget to follow us at Facebook at the Edible Valley Podcast or Instagram at Edible Valley. Our website, ediblevalley.com. To tell us what you want to hear, or if you have any questions for us, email us at theediblevalley@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us, because you never know where we'll be exploring next in the Edible Valley.
My name's Helen Nixon, but you can just call me Helen. Claire's name has to go in there too, because yes, it does. No, because Claire needs to be in there because she's a big part of the farm. She's leaning on the counter over there, but no, she's actually the one that organizes all this stuff. Hey, I've got on the thing there, I got Bluetooth headphones. Will they work for you?
No.
I've got plug-in ones too.
Mine are on my truck seat.